Welcome to another video. Okay, it was White's turn. White brought the knight up because White wanted to deal with this black knight right here getting awfully close. And then the black knight took, and then White took. So White dealt with the black knight by trading it for his own knight. White says, I'm going to deal with that knight. Black captures the white knight, and White captures the black knight. So they just traded, but White feels better because White eliminated that black knight. But look at the cost. I mean, White had to get rid of its own knight to do that. Now, let's look at this for a second. Where can this black knight go? He can't go here because he'll get taken by that pawn. I mean, he could, but then the pawn will take. If he goes here, the bishop can take. And if this knight takes, then this knight can recapture. So that's not a great spot. So that's not a great spot. That's not a great spot. And if he goes here, then this knight can take, or this pawn can take. So that black knight right now doesn't really have a great spot to get to. What would have been a better move other than bringing the knight up? Well, let's look here. The computer says right there. See now, where can he go? If he goes here, he's going to get taken. Here he gets taken, and here he gets taken. So his choices are not good. Now he's got another choice, and he could just move another piece. And the computer actually suggests that he brings this pawn up. But still, that doesn't save the knight. And now the knight is gone. Okay, so that was an interesting way to deal with that. Let's go to the next example. Now here, White captures the rook and puts the king in check. The queen comes down, takes the bishop, and is aiming toward that queen there. Of course, if black moves this queen, it would put the king in check. So it's an interesting pickle. See, right now she's pinned. So she comes down, she takes the bishop. And what White did was take the queen. Because White was thinking, okay, look, if we get the queens off the board, it's going to be a rook versus bishop endgame. And rooks are better. So White took the queen. Of course, the king took back. And, you know, it's still not looking like an easy win here for White. Was there a better move? Let's look. Queen comes down and takes. Instead of just taking right away, could White have done something else? What about this? This makes it more interesting because, let's see if we can get rid of that. By moving the rook over, they have to deal with that. Let's see what they did. And they made a good move there. Blocks with the bishop. And let's see what White did. White could see that the black bishop is now pinned. Queen moved up. White moves over to g3. Queen takes. The rook takes the bishop, puts the king in check. So now it's a queen against a queen and a rook. So already all kinds of fun shenanigans can happen here. It's definitely an advantage for White. So just by moving, let's look and see what happened. So instead of taking and making this kind of ending, White could have moved the rook over and said check and created this kind of ending. So don't be in such a big hurry to trade your pieces off. I guess that's the theme of this video so far. Next example. Black has a rook, a bishop, and a bishop. So 2 rooks, 2 bishops. Black's got white in check. White only has 2 rooks. And you would think if you were white at this point, you would just say, okay, look, there's no way I'm going to win this game. I certainly am not going to get a draw or a win. I should just quit. But this is a great example of not to quit. Always hang in there. If you still got some pieces left, you're going to learn. You can always learn more if you just keep playing. Yes, you're probably going to lose, but you can learn a lot, and this is how you get better. If you just quit every time it's not looking good, you're depriving yourself of possible valuable lessons learned. So let's see how white dealt with this. The king moves out of check. Pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Bishop moves. White took the bishop here. Now what was he thinking? He was thinking that if this rook takes this rook, the king can get that rook. Well, Black saw that and decided to take that pawn. White took the rook. So now, instead of 2 rooks and 2 bishops against 2 rooks, it's now a rook and a bishop against a rook. So white has greatly improved his situation. Now he's threatening the bishop. Bishop has to move. White comes up to the 7th rank. King gets a little closer. White decides he's going to go for this pawn. Black makes a good move there by putting the king in check. The king has to move out of the way, and then the rook can take that pawn. And now in this scenario, if white tried to take that pawn, he'd get taken by the rook here. So let's see what white does. White decides to put the king in check, which is a great move because, look, the king is blocked by his own pieces. He can't go here or here, so his only move is with the bishop, and then the rook takes. So look at this. We've gone from being so far down in points, and now white has made a huge comeback. Now, black still has 5 pawns, and white only has 2. So let's see what happens. Black king gets closer. White rook moves out of the way. Black starts pushing some pawns. Rook says check. King moves out of the way. Now white says check. And at least white has these 2 connected pawns. So that's something going for white. King moves up. Rook comes in. Great move for the check. Takes a pawn and puts the king in check. And the king can't take this pawn because it would put him, he'd be in line with the rook. And the king can't take this pawn because of this pawn. So where does the king go? He goes there. Then the rook puts the king in check. King moves out of the way. Rook takes another pawn. So now black is only winning by a pawn. He starts pushing, going to try to make a queen. White starts pushing. King goes up, thinking he's going to somehow stop this. White protects that pawn with his pawn. I don't know what the king was doing there. He moved... Okay, so king decides to move to e5. And white says, I don't see how black is going to stop this. King takes the pawn. White gets a queen, and king can't even take this rook because the queen guards it. So white went from being hugely outmatched, outplayed, to winning this game. So this is a great example. What happened at this point is black quit. White ended up winning the game. So this is a great example. Never quit. Okay, next example. Black is trying to push that pawn to make a queen. The king moves out of the way, and black, really wanting to make a queen, thinks, okay, if I push this pawn here, I'm going to have a queen and a rook and this knight here, and all he's got is a rook. So black pushes, makes a queen. White takes the queen. Now look at this. And from this point, I mean, the white king can't move because this rook covers this whole area. So white pushes that pawn. Black king moves in. White pushes that pawn. Knight takes it. And you see this pawn can't make a queen because the knight can block. King goes down. He's stuck on that file there. Black knight decides to just stay in the square A8 because there's no way now that this pawn is ever going to make a queen as long as that knight is there. King moves up. King takes the pawn. And so now at this point, black can go on to win just with the king and the rook. Let's go back. Black pushes the pawn, getting one step closer to a queen. White king moves out of the way. Now, we already saw what happened in the game. White pawn made a move up, one square, became a queen, and then the white rook took it. But the computer suggested an even better move. And that is black moving his rook over. The king has to get out of the way. And then, when black makes a queen, and he gets out of the way, queen can come right down and take that rook. Yep, he could have done that. And in this scenario, there, checkmate right there. But let's go back. Okay, now, is there a better move than just taking that rook? Yeah. Putting the king in check. King moves out of the way. Rook moves up to say check. White blocks. So now, queen and a rook versus queen and a rook and a knight versus a king and three pawns. Let's see what happens. This is not looking good for white. And it's over. So I thought that was very instructive. Okay, it's black to move. And black sees something he can do. He takes the knight and captures that pawn. And you may say, well, why did he do that? Now the bishop can just take. True, but now the queen can take the knight. You see, this bishop is doing two jobs. He's guarding this knight and this pawn. So whenever you see a piece that has double duty like this, you can try to exploit that. And by black's knight coming up and taking that pawn, so now black has white's pawn. And if white captures the knight and black gets white's knight, now black is up a pawn. So they traded knights and black has the extra pawn. Now in this scenario, the computer suggests the best move for white is to take. So this is a good thing to spot. Anytime you see a piece that's overloaded like this, try to exploit it. All right, well, thank you for watching. Have a great day.